Hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and you're about to listen to a hypnosis session designed to give a new connotation to smoking cigarettes. And this would also apply to smoking other things like weed or something like that. But effectively, the client that I was working with was a smoker, and in their teenage years, their 20s, it was something that they would do to connect with other people, socially smoke. It would be a treat, a reward for them. So they had all of these narratives, all of these belief systems, and they'd quit for a few days, but a little voice popped up in their head that says, come on, you deserve this. You know, it's a treat. And that tells me that there is still a positive connotation and that smoking has the meaning, not the reality, but the meaning that it's desirable. So this hypnosis session does two key things. One, it reframes it from something as a desirable treat to an undesirable punishment, and at the same time gives them an alternative. And that alternative is things that would actually be still ritualistic, still represent a bookend of the day, still be something and do something that would be considered a treat, but actually enhance the quality of their life and give them good feelings not related to nicotine. So if you feel right now that smoking is desirable and yet you do want to quit, you might find this a useful session, albeit a disgusting one. It does have lots of references to some of the health and aesthetic consequences of smoking, and that's designed to do the opposite of what most smokers do. Most smokers disassociate from consequences and associate into the feeling it gives them. What this is designed to do is to associate into the feeling of disgust or it being something repulsive, and to associate into that feeling of, let's say, it being an undesirable and all of the health consequences and physical consequences of that. So it associates into the consequences and disassociates into these old narratives that a lot of smokers carry around, like it's pleasurable, it's a treat, those kind of things. So if you are a smoker and you feel like you want to change how you feel before you quit smoking, this might be a good session. Equally, some of the references, like the cacao ceremony, very tailored to the individual client that I was working with. That might not be relevant for you. There might be other rituals. So if you do like the idea of working with me directly, there will be a link in the description in the show notes where you can book a completely free consultation call and we can have a chat, because it might be that I'm the right hypnotherapist for you. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in that slow, long, relaxing breath, and as you exhale, just allow any tension in your eyelids to release, and as you breathe out, that's it, feel your eyes closing. Breathing in resourceful relaxation, and as you exhale, feel a release, not just of tension, but also old ideas that aren't true anymore. As you breathe in new ideas, and as you breathe out old ideas. And I want you to link these ideas to smoking. And perhaps you can breathe in the idea that smoking is like a slow-acting poison, and breathe out the idea that smoking is a treat. You can breathe in the idea that smoking makes you smell or starts killing off cells. And maybe breathe out the idea that it's rebellious or cool. And you know the narratives, you know the stories. So just imagine breathing out those old stories and breathing in the new ones. Like how you don't need it. You don't want it. And you know that's true. Because if you were forced in a prison cell to smoke 100 a day, you know it would be a matter of months before you'd struggle to breathe. There'd be black tar in your nostrils. There'd be yellow stains on your fingers. Your skin would change color. And I don't know exactly how many months it would be until you first start coughing up blood. But your unconscious has an idea. Some people believe that truth is what sets them free. And I want you to think that there is this whole industry built on associations and connotations and narratives that aren't true. But what is true is what you know to be true. And I want you to imagine seeing yourself like on a big cinema screen, having worked hard all day. And I want you to see that version of you smoking at the end of the day, like a bookend, like a transition from work mode to a different state of mind. But let's imagine, just for the sake of this thought experiment, that one cigarette has the impact of 1,000, so that the slow-acting nature of this is revealed. And I want you to imagine yourself in one cigarette having 1,000. And I want you to see those yellow stains on your fingers. I want you to imagine how pungent that breath would be. I want you to think about how much tar, that sticky, black residue would be in your lungs if you had 1,000. And then I want you to see that loose, wrinkly skin. See your complexion going from healthy and vibrant to grey and dull. See yourself aging faster. See your eyes getting red as your eyes aren't getting enough oxygen. And as the observer, I want you to try as hard as you can to make what you're watching seem like it would be a desirable treat. Think of the grey skin and try and convince yourself that you deserve it. See that yellowness in the fingers and think, "Ooh, what a treat." And then see yourself and just imagine that it's been years of this, with a gravelly voice, a smoker's cough, a smoker's laugh, you know the one. And then see yourself on one of those smoker's coughs, coughing up a combination of phlegm and blood. And you don't know if it's just a blood vessel that was ruptured because it's not getting the health it needs, or the early signs of a tumor. And I want you to try as hard as you can to come to the conclusion that this is a treat. This is something that you would want to deserve. And what if what's really happened is you've been hypnotized since you were very young to believe something expensive, addictive, toxic, filled with carcinogens is somehow pleasurable? And what if this hypnosis isn't to convince you that smoking is dangerous or disgusting, but to just take away the previous hypnosis that told you it was cool, rebellious, desirable or enjoyable? What if the wool was pulled over your eyes all this time, and now you get to see it for what it really is? I want you to get a sense that who benefits from people believing that this thing that's just a weed growing in the ground, cheap, yet addictive, who benefits by convincing people that it's pleasurable and desirable, enjoyable and a treat? I want you to get a sense that the more you think, the more sinister it becomes. I want you to get a feeling that a light is being switched on. And then I want you to imagine stepping into that version of you. So rather than seeing yourself trying to enjoy that treat, you feel that it's the end of the day. But just as you bring the cigarette up to your mouth, feel the tightness in your chest. Imagine running your fingers through your hair and feeling how brittle it is, or touching your skin and feeling how lifeless or dull or wrinkly it feels. And then imagine, just as you're about to bring it up to your lips, you cough up even more blood. One of those scratchy, gravelly, harsh coughs, and just imagine coughing up blood into your hand. And try as hard as you can to feel like this is a treat. I want you to imagine going back into that cinema, seeing that version of you with a look of resolve, But that treat only works if you believe the thing is desirable. But if you believe the thing is undesirable, then it would feel like punishment rather than a treat. And I want you to imagine rewinding that version of you. Because if there was a part of you that felt that smoking was a way to reminisce and feel nostalgic, I want you to see a version of you on that screen, looking at old photos, reading old messages or notes. And I want you to see that that version there is able to reminisce and get nostalgic much more effectively than a cigarette ever could. And if your unconscious now believes that smoking is not a treat, it's the illusion of a treat. And if your unconscious mind believes that old photos and old items would be a much better way to reminisce if you truly desire it, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And then rewind again, and I want you to imagine seeing a different version of you, an enlightened version of you, with a different way to separate work mode from relaxation mode, with a different way to bookend the day. I want you to see that version of you after a hard day, looking forward to preparing a ritual, a ceremony of cacao prepared in a particular way, like a ceremony. Not just consuming that superfood of raw cacao, but an act of self-love, of self-kindness, a real treat, as that version of you is able to access new levels of gratitude. That version of you is able to still reminisce whenever they choose to. That version of you can just let go of the past whenever it comes up. That version of you can set powerful intentions that ripple through space and time and change your future. That version of you is treating yourself with self-love rather than self-destruction. But that doesn't have to be an everyday thing. Some days, you might treat yourself to a different ritual of self-care. Or maybe a particular warm drink that just helps you relax. Or maybe, instead of a whole ceremony, just some high quality, high cocoa solids chocolate that still activates all of the neural pathways that a cacao ceremony would, without needing the ceremony. And all of these are actual treats. I want you to get a feeling that a treat is something that enriches and enhances your life. If someone said it would be a treat to experience something painful, you may disagree. want you to get a feeling that it is the meaning you give these things that determine whether or not they are pleasurable and a treat. Because one person's treat is another person's punishment. And I want you to wonder that if someone had secretly, covertly, and subtly been poisoning you with all of the health consequences that smoking can give, and after 10 or 20 years of them doing that, you discovered what they were doing, that they were maliciously aiming to make you age more rapidly, get sick more often, to impact your body's health and vitality. Imagine they were doing that for 20 years. If that's worthy of a prize, then what they're doing is a treat. And if that's worthy of a punishment, then what they're doing is a crime. And I want you to feel that you are re-evaluating what smoking means to you. And with that new connotation, I want you to imagine what it would be like to try your hardest to imagine it being a pleasurable treat with this new connotation, this new meaning. And the more you try and imagine doing it, I want you to make it more disgusting, thinking of that blood, that tar, that phlegm and that aging. Just imagine being outside where you normally are and feeling that repulsion, like it's a punishment. Feel that disgust. Imagine the blood or a small tumor. Imagine the black tar, the foul breath, the yellow fingers. And try and imagine enjoying it with all of those thoughts in mind. Imagine the possibility of having a lung removed, having a tube opened up there in your throat, and try and perceive it as a treat. And if your subconscious mind, that part, that voice that feels like you deserve a treat, is now willing to accept that this is not a treat at all, just the illusion of one, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to think of what's a real treat. Something valuable, enjoyable, something that enhances your experiences. That's what you really deserve. And as you allow these thoughts to take root in your mind, I want you to imagine what it would be like tomorrow. And I want you to see that future version of you. Set the intention now and imagine what it would be like. And if this feels that your future is now moving in a new direction, then it's because new neural pathways have been created and an old neural pathway has been given a new meaning. And with that in mind, it's time to leave this place, this future, this cinema, this experience, and start drifting back to the here and now with all these new ideas and changes. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, and wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to hit the subscribe button or follow button to make sure that you're automatically notified of any future episodes that I release. Also, by doing that, it lets the algorithm know that you like this show, and that will put it in front of even more people that might not know that this show exists. So that would be helpful for me. And if you like the stuff that I do, take a moment just to have a look in the show notes or the description, because there's lots of free things that I have to offer, including free hypnosis downloads without the intro or the outro like I'm doing now. So thank you again for joining me on today's episode, and I'll see you again soon for the next one.